Hi, welcome to the Rams Agents Production Coaching Call. The goal of the call is to help you sell more homes by maximizing your repeat, and referral closings by implementing the referral agent mastery system into your practice. My name is Mike Cerrone, co-founder of Rams Agents, and my co-host is Angela Newman, a master trainer of Rams Agents. Hello, Angela. How are you today?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, so let's hop in. Who's got some good news you'd like to share today?
I'll share that I walked through a really cool property yesterday. It was actually two properties right next to each other, and they're going to be looking to sell probably around this time next year. But it's going to be they're each about 20 acres with multiple buildings and barns and things on it. So yeah, sometimes, it's a good thing when you have especially unique properties to be able to have time to get the property ready like that. And so that was good.
How cool. Wow. Were they twin properties, like identical next door to one another, or completely unique?
So they were 20-acre tracts that were split in this area at one time, like I think like around 1990. So the tract itself is kind of the same, the land is, because they were all mapped out like that. But the properties are completely different, unique. The houses are different, the barns are different. They each have unique selling features about them. So it was really good because if I was just to hear it like on the phone, I wouldn't have been able to prepare, as I would right now. I'm already, um, in order to even give a preliminary CMA, you got to see it in person, like this kind of property. So.
Are these unique properties? Like, are there a lot of comps nearby? How are you going to price this thing out?
Mhm. There are comps, there's just not a lot because it's out in a farm rural area. And so land is selling in that area. It's actually this area where I'm at right now. So it is selling. There are some comps, but there's not going to be anything really close to what they have because everything is so unique. The land I will be able to comp easier, I think, than everything else, but.
So is that what you'll do? You'll price the land out and then add a structure? Is that kind of the approach you would take? I'm just trying to get an idea if somebody runs into something that's unique like this, how they would go about pricing it.
Mhm. And this is where we could get Blake to step in. He's the land man, Blake. And that's, yes. So I would first determine the price per acre uh, range and then look at each building and the value that they bring and look at the location, which that would be more the price per acre, of what that would bring. And then put it together and go from there.
What do you think, Blake? How would you approach it? Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, that's always tough because you're right, Angela. Every piece of real estate is very unique, even more so when you're dealing with land, I think, because you got terrain issues, location, and I think it is hard to just go straight off of a price per acre and just just like it's not easy to go price per square foot. I mean, price per square foot might be exactly correct way to do it if the neighborhood is all built the same, but land is rarely that way. So, I mean, that's what everybody's going to want to come to you asking is what's the price per acre. That's the question everyone will have, and that's how they want it to be priced because they want to treat it as a commodity. So you have to look at it as is it if it works out that the money's about right at a average price per acre in the area, then great. That's terrific. But you do have those buildings. So you do have to consider that. I was just thinking, just got to be sure to make a rationale for whatever your pricing is and make sure that it's a very reasonable rationale that you can share with other agents or whoever you're talking to. I did utilize land.com, which is a land only network of, I say land only, there's farms and that sort of thing too, ranches. You have to pay to list on that separately from your own MLS. It's like its own entity. And I'll just tell you, I didn't get any on that land listing that I had that closed in March. I didn't have any leads that came from land.com, even though I had been on land.com for at least 6 or 8 months prior to the closing. Just so you know. It doesn't mean that it didn't help or couldn't help, but that's not where my leads came from. At least the ones that I
How
was
much,
made aware. I
about
think
how
it was
much was
nine.
land.com?
I feel like it was. I'm not 100% sure, but it was a price per listing, I think, is what I chose, and I think it was $100 a month. Maybe it was less than that, but it wasn't it wasn't a small fee. It was a significant number. Yeah, it was not like $25 a month. You could do that for a long time and not be a big deal. But yeah, it was enough that it was significant. So I think it was 99 bucks.
That's really good to know because on a property like this, I do want to use as many different types of marketing available, to get it out there. And for instance, they're planning to have a auction because there's a lot of equipment and stuff. And figuring out how I can, if anybody inquires, will this property be going up for sale? If I can talk to the auction company or whoever it is and make a list of those people that I can contact later. Um, Figuring that out. I've used Zillow Showcase. With our brokerage, we get a discount on that. So I've been using that for my properties that are higher end, and that gets a lot more views on Zillow. And they also offer some unique things about that. But in this case, with multiple buildings, I don't know how much that would cost or anything. I'd have to look into that. But
Yeah. So yeah, with the buildings, I mean, who knows? Because you're right, multiple buildings, everything's unique. You kind of have to figure what might it cost to build a building or two, maybe not all of them. I mean, like if you just figured up the cost for each one, that's not necessarily going to be just an add-on, tack on to the price per acre, because it's probably, unless by some amazing manner the buildings are exactly what your buyer needs, exactly the size and exactly what they need. Anyway,
good point.
I don't.
Yeah, good point.
It's a lot to navigate. It is. I think that's a great plan with the auctioneer. Auctioneers, they really want to sell the real estate, and so I don't know. There's always that chance that maybe you just do a deal with the auctioneer to do the whole deal, but um, who knows? I mean, would it be subdivided at all, or it needs to all be in one piece? I'm guessing in one piece. Yeah.
Um, it could be. So I believe that a developer could buy it and subdivide it into residential, like 1 acre, 2 acre tracts. Or somebody could buy it if they had wanted to do a family style, or it could be subdivided into 5 or 10 acre tracts. So I think that they're going to be open to that, and that's more research that I'll have to do to be prepared to give them some answers on.
Sure.
I do have experience with that in the past with marketing properties like that, where it's a big chunk of land and you kind of pre-figure out where you would subdivide and do a little research before that, but
Yeah. Is there a recent survey?
no, not
No.
since the 90s.
Yeah. That's common. Nobody gets their land surveyed unless they're dividing it up or putting a fence up or something. Yeah, that's pretty common. So yeah, I mean, you got a lot to work on there. That's for sure. Just
But
it's
I
an
have a
adventure.
year, so I'm very
Yeah.
thankful.
Yeah. You
And I
have an
told her, I
adventure
said,
ahead.
if we look at numbers today, a year from now, we're gonna look at them again. This will just kind of give you what we're looking at today, an estimated range. So
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Pretty cool project. Couple quick thoughts. One, you mentioned that auction company, and Blake brought up a good point that they may want to actually try to sell the land. I was going to say you could put up a temporary coming soon sign on the property during that auction and try to collect leads that way. But Blake brought up the issue that the auction company may try to pick off your listing, so you'll have to think about that one. The other things that could go into value, you mentioned the zoning and when it was subdividable. So that was one I'd written down. And then the other one would be water rights, whether you have access to water and at what level. That's probably very important to somebody who has a large parcel of land. So um, cool. That's good stuff. Anybody else have any comments you want to make on pumping out a land listing, something that has 20 acres and a structure on it?
I think the coming soon idea, Mike, is a great idea because I had a similar situation kind of with my last listing that sold where the clients wanted to take it off during the Christmas break and into the new year and relist it in the spring. But I kind of let them know that they'd be missing out on potential opportunities that may come in between that time. And that's actually when it ended up selling. And I'm kind of thinking the same thing for Angela's situation because they don't want to list till a year from now. But I'm sure if they got the right offer tomorrow, they would hop on it and not wait another year, you know? So I think maybe putting your coming soon sign there, even a year out, might be a good idea because I know Blake as well got a good lead from having his sign on the land. So it's just something maybe if your clients are open to it, it's a great opportunity for you to advertise and get some good marketing, especially if it's on a high traffic street and maybe get some potential leads for down the line.
thank you, Tristan. I'll have to check to see how long we can. I don't have it like at the top of my head, but I think it's less than a month on how long we can be officially a coming soon with a sign. Um, but yeah, that's a great idea, and I think that I may even just talk to the MLS board um, to see what I can do and just let them have the situation and say, well, what can I do? Because I don't want to lose I mean, I'm working for the seller, and if I have it listed and they're not ready to actually put it on the market yet, how can I still not let the seller, lose out on all of this potential traffic? Hmm.
Yeah,
No, I was
there's
just thinking too, back to the auction thing. Are you gonna connect your seller with an auctioneer, you think, or
He already
is that
has, I asked him, and he has an auctioneer that he likes and that I also have not worked with real estate. I think they mainly do equipment and stuff like that,
okay?
and cars and estates and things. So, uh, I'm I'm on board with him using them because they have a great reputation and he personally knows them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just I think even if your MLS doesn't permit you to have that coming soon, I imagine if you are well connected with that auctioneer, all of their marketing can point people to you for the land somehow, or somehow you could make that happen. It's kind of out of the MLS range, and yes, you wouldn't have the listing because that's probably what the MLS requires is you've got to have the listing written up and all that. Well, I guess you will have the listing written up. You've already got that going, so you're just waiting on your
Hmm.
marketing. Anyway, I'm just thinking about how you can connect that with the auctioneer to make sure that all of their marketing effort kind of helps set you up.
Mhm.
Not just a matter of you having
Yeah.
oh, by the way, this is also for sale. It's kind of like, in their marketing, maybe you share some of their marketing costs or something. I don't know. Just a thought.
Mhm. That's a really great thought. And so I will look into that more because I believe that I could have a listing agreement. The seller could authorize and say, I do not want it in MLS right now, but it's
As a
okay to
coming
market
soon
it
or
off
anything. Yeah.
MLS through this auction company.
Yeah. As long as you've got your listing agreement in place, then
Hmm.
um, the auction company could at least
Or I
point
could have
people
an
to you.
agreement with the seller that they could, I could have more of a paperwork agreement. And if the auctioneer found a buyer, then something just either way. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's true. What if a seller just arises during the process? Yeah. Like Tristan
Mm-hmm.
was saying.
Yeah. That
Cool.
happens. I mean, even at estate sales, everybody walks in, is this house going to go up for sale? And now that they have rules on the coming soons and how when you can show property and market it that way, it's a little bit harder, but
If you are comfortable with the auctioneer and you don't think that they're going to try to uh, snag the listing, one of the things you could do if you have a relationship with them is you could be there during the auction, and maybe the auctioneer could introduce you, and then you could say, hey, if anybody's interested in this property is not for sale right now, but it'll be coming up soon. If you would like to talk to the real estate agent, she is right over here. Her name is Angela Newman. And then people could self-select and come by and talk to you. You can hand them a card, gather their information, say, would you like to be the first? Would you like to be one of the first people to know about this property when it goes on the market? If you do, let me just have your contact information. Right? That's the offer. And you're doing it all pre-listing, all I mean, I don't, you'll have to decide whether you think you need a listing agreement for that or an MLS exception, but you're basically saying, hey, if this property comes up, I'll let you know.
mm,
So it's a little
that's a
informal.
great thing too to do. I could just be there for the auction, and if the owner wants me to put a table up and sit there and answer questions, then I can be there, that's allowable, and I like that. Um, and the other thing is it's only like 15 minutes from my mom's house. So
Yeah,
so yeah, it would be a great trip and I would be happy to go and be there for the auction. That's good. I would have more control as well instead of just, hey, could you please keep track of all of the people that say that they're interested? They're going to be busy and, they might do their best, but it would be better for me to just be there.
there you go. Looks like you found out a solution. Well, thank you for sharing, Angela, and congratulations on the two twin listings coming up next to each other. The big acreage, that should be a fun project and profitable. All right, good. So does anybody else have any good news you'd like to share with the group? Cool.
I know last week I shared that I needed to repackage some marketing for a listing, and we talked about having a heart-to-heart discussion about the pricing. And we talked about how location, condition, price, those are the three things, the three elements. And the only one we could change in this particular case, unless they were going to do a lot of remodeling, was the price. So I did have a significant price reduction agreed to by my sellers, and it has generated 4 showings just in the past 3 days. So that's very good because it was pretty quiet prior to that. So that's my good news. I have those showings. I have a showing this afternoon. Yep.
That's fantastic, Blake. Congratulations. So, focusing on that price adjustment script that we were talking about, and the concept was helpful. You should always, when you get in those situations, you got to go with what the information is. But typically, you want a good solid chunk of for a price reduction, and try to get into a new price category. So that's the other thing to bring up when you have the dialogue on price adjustments. I used to map it out on a piece of paper in front of people, but you're trying to share this idea of price points that are obvious, that if somebody were to go into a mortgage brokerage office, that's where they would come out. So for instance, nobody walks into a mortgage broker office and walks out knowing that they can purchase a property at $515,482. They don't give them a number like that. Now the calculation may give that, but they're going to round it. So in that case, they may round it down to 500 or up to 5.25 and say, hey, that's what you can go purchase. So in that case, you want to at least move a $25,000 price reduction to make a difference. If you're not going to do that, then just stay where you are. That's usually my advice to them. To try to stay at the top of the price point, because anybody who would pay $505 would have paid $525. So just stay at $525 until you're ready to move to $500. Don't make an adjustment. Stay at $525. So they like hearing that, and it's true. And then, but you flip it around on the other side. If you're at $525 and nothing's happening, you got to go to $500 to get some new buyers, some new blood. Why? Because they're walking out of the mortgage office with the number 500 in their back pocket. And if you're at 5.25, they never see you. Does that make sense, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Right? And so you're describing that logically for them, how you're positioning the property and the price points. Price points was a big deal for me. I used to call price point technology, and try to share with them this idea of how they could maximize within any price point. And yet if they have to make an adjustment, they have to move for a full price point. That said, one other thing that I've been toying with a little bit is if you've got a property that's getting kind of stale and you're not getting as many showings as you want, and you can't get your seller to make a large price adjustment, you might consider a micro price adjustment. I just came up with that name, by the way, micro price adjustment. But the idea that I've done is just adjust it by $1. Just adjust the price by $1. I did that on a listing currently. I actually went up $1 and I got more listings, right? And I brought it back down $1, got more listings. So I think when you make a price adjustment, in some of these syndications out there, Zillow or whoever you want to talk about, a lot of them will then push it to the top or highlight it somehow that there's been a price adjustment. And so again, I was just toying with the idea of a little itty bitty teeny weeny price adjustment where the seller's not going to complain or have a problem. I mean, it's $1. So anybody else play with that, and any results that you've had?
I haven't done as small as $1. I've actually kind of seen that before, and I'm like, why would they, I get it, but I haven't done $1. But if a seller has told me I'd be willing to go down $5,000, I usually would say, well, the only benefit to that really is that it will blast out to everybody again, and it will kind of just announce that you have lowered the price by however much, and put it in front of people again. But $5,000 is not going to be enough for that buyer that couldn't afford it before, didn't think it was worth, going to see. It's probably not gonna, other than it's just gonna get it in front of people more. And that's okay if you're willing to do that, if that's all that you're willing to do, and I'll still do it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I've told sellers many, many, many times, hey, if you're only going to do $1,000 price adjustment or $5,000, depending on where they are in the price range, let's not do that. I'll flip that around, by the way, and I'll try to turn it into a benefit. So let's say my example a minute ago was we're at $525 We're not getting enough showings. The seller wants something to happen, but they're not willing to go to 500. And they say, well, let's just do 5,000, Mike. Let's make a change of 5,000. My answer is, I understand, but 5,000 is not going to make a big enough difference because we're not going into another price category. So you probably should just stay pat. But if you want to give some incentive to some buyers that are on the fence, let's consider doing this. Let's take that $5,000 and turn it into a seller concession offer. Let's offer a seller concession of $5,000 with a full price offer at $525. How's that sound, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And most of them are like, yep, let's do that. Now, that's not going to get you a huge exposure in the market. It didn't adjust the price. But if you've got a party that's interested and they need help with closing costs, all of a sudden your property just went up a click in their mind compared to other properties. So that's another tool to use. I'm going to go back to that.
So Mike,
Yeah, go ahead, Angela.
well, and this may be what you're getting ready to say, then why not combine the two theories? And also in seasonal changes, so if you had a property that you listed in January, February, the grass is dead and everything, one thing that I always recommend and would do would at least change the exterior photos and when the seasons start changing. And so you could do the micro price adjustment of $1, add an incentive, and add it if you're allowed to in your public remarks on MLS, change the photo, and then that might get some curiosity out there because people, if they don't recognize, if they've been looking at properties regularly and they don't recognize that photo, they might dig a little deeper, they might read the details and see that.
Great point, Angela. Like in my area, when we changed seasons, although it didn't happen this year, we had a weird year, but you could go from a photo of a house that came on during the winter months or the early spring where it had snow on it. Now you're in the summer. And so buyers are thinking, why is there snow on the ground in this property? It must have been on the market for a very long time. So flipping out that exterior photo is a really smart move. And then you came to the same conclusion that you might do a change in one of the terms to get some interest, like adding a seller concession, and then combine it with that micro price change of $1. That might make a difference as far as getting a little more visual exposure on the property. The other thing that with those micro adjustments, and again, I'm thinking about testing this moving forward, and that is adding it to my listing agreement right at the very beginning, where I write in a paragraph that says something along the lines, and I'm not your lawyer, go talk to your broker, and I'm just giving you an idea. Don't use my language. But this basic idea of, hey, in the listing agreement, additional provisions, it says basically, hey, if the listing broker can adjust the price by $1 at any time to stimulate activity and showings on the property, seller completely authorizes. Something along those lines. You play with the language to make it match and be legal. But that idea that you have full authority as the listing broker to change things. I have those kind of statements all throughout my listing agreement, that the listing broker can pick all kinds of things and make all kinds of decisions, and as far as marketing and that I think I'm going to add this idea, and that way I can test it. Anyway, so that's another just idea for you to remember. You are a party to that agreement, the listing agreement. You can absolutely go in there and write it up the way you want or make changes and modifications. I did not give anybody legal advice. That's bad, that statement. Go check that out with an attorney or your broker. But my opinion is, as a party, in my area at least, I can make those changes. You do want to make sure you run it past your broker though. All right, anything else on this idea of how to stimulate more showings if you aren't getting enough showings on your listing? All right, good. All right, thank you for sharing that idea and those ideas. All right, let's do this. This is a pretty open session today. So do anybody have any ideas, any issues or challenges you would like the mastermind to focus on why we have us all together. Is there anything that's creating a challenge for you that you'd like the group to talk about? Anything you're excited about you'd like to share with the group, something that's worked? Hey, Tristan.
Yeah, I was curious, Yevon, if you could talk to us a bit, because we're talking about production, and I know all of us want to sell more houses. I'm just curious, you sold any houses this week, last week? And if you can, talk to us about some of the things that are working for you to be able to close, multiple transactions sometimes in a week.
Oh,
Was he saying he's going to be
I
back?
think you just had to step away for a phone call or something. So
Okay.
your timing was slightly off there, Tristan. Maybe we'll come back
Everything
to that.
happens in the time it's supposed to, and I guess for a reason.
That's all
But
good.
yeah, I got a referral yesterday.
Hey,
I guess that's good
congratulations.
news for Rams. But yeah, Yevon, were you able to talk to us now?
Yes, I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's just my microphone now. It's working okay. The last week, I closed my two listings. The big one for my market, so it was like priced for 600, and another one for 500. And on both of them, it was multiply bids, was cool. But market become little slow down. I see, like in kind of like middle of the May right now, because I have another listing and I have same issue like you guys just discussed regarding like, yeah, it's priced for 512,000, and it's like already 3 weeks and we didn't sell yet. So the previous kind of like months was great, like we just listed for a couple, like days, and it was like multiply offers and we accept one and go forward. Even like for a 600,000 house, we got like a cash offer, 28,000 over asking price, full cash, and we accepted, close in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and it was, cool, very cool. Right now, kind of like, yeah, I see like I need to do something, like to bring like more kind of like buyers or sellers, yeah, because like most of them who wants to buy, they buy something or sell. So now I'm in the process to kind of like, you know, move the wheel forward.
Good job,
How's
Yevon.
your market, guys, in general? Like, yeah, is it like, oh, thank you. Yeah.
Hey, before we go on to ask everybody about their market, let's just stay there for a second, Yevon. So you had two listings that closed. I remember you were saying they've been on the market for a while, but then the market picked back up. So that's a good message to, hey, get in the market whenever you can, and just make sure your listing agreement is long enough that you can catch the upswing. So that's why you always want to have a long agreement. And somebody says they want a short agreement. My argument is always, hey, give me a 6-month agreement and I'll give you the ability to terminate at any time. They can cancel my agreement anytime, because most people won't terminate as soon as they commit. So try to get that long one. The other thing, just real quick, Yevon, you said you got a new listing and you brought it in at 512,000. Is that correct? How did you pick that number? That's a very
Yes.
unusual, unique number.
It was just through conversation with the sellers. And yeah, just to give like a space 12,000 to kind of lower the price to like, couple weeks or couple months, depends, to 500,000, like you just explained. Like, yeah, it's better to be like close to 500,000, because it's usually like pre-approval sets, right? Like 500 or 550 or like 600, something like that. And we give just a little space to kind of for negotiation or just to decrease the price.
Yeah, if you think you're close on your valuation, you're not way off. Like the property's not really worth 300,000 and they're asking 512. But if the property seems like it's close to being worth 500 and they're at 512, my advice would be to go back to them and say, we went out at 5.25. I thought the market was picking up. The market's slowing down just a little bit. The market. The market's talking to us. The market's told us this. The market said that. And you're sharing stats. And your ultimate goal is to say, I think because of this idea of mortgages and people buying with a mortgage, 83% of the people in my market buy with a mortgage, whatever your percentage is, figure that out. And because of that, I think we need to adjust this down to 500, and we're going to find a whole nother group of buyers. Are you okay with us doing that? I'd like to execute that right now. I can send that over to you this afternoon. What do you think? Get their feedback. And if you can get it to 500, you're probably going to see a big uptick in your showings and possibly you get it under contract.
Yeah, another problem like this property has, it's kind of like new construction that was built in 2023, and the DH Horton, it's like, I don't know if you guys have same construction companies nationwide. Yeah, they just start building the second stage of their townhomes, the new one, and it just happened like 3-4 months ago. Uh, so it's crazy because like kind of like it's almost the same kind of like next block, maybe not the same block, but next block. It's like brand new townhomes 2026, but it's just listed on, of course, on higher end price, so it's close to like 600,000, and we listed close to 500,000, and they start to sell more like 3 bedrooms. We have 2. So this
So it's
point, it's
more,
kind of
it
like
costs more, but you're getting more. 3 bedrooms is more than 2 bedrooms. I know math enough to know that. That's
yeah, they
so
listed at 575, like 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bed. We have like 2 bedrooms and 2.5 bed. So like 1 bedroom less, but it's kind of priced almost like 100,000, the gap.
yeah, it's hard to figure out what is the value of a bedroom, right? What's the value of a bedroom or a bathroom? You might have to go outside the complex to answer that question and find comps. We're in the neighborhood, in the townhome complex. There's a 3 bedroom and a 2 bedroom, and there's side by side, and one sells for X and the other sells for Y, and that's a difference. Um, or sometimes you can ask an appraiser what's the value of an extra bedroom because they have to actually get those stats and they find those comps out in the market. There's definitely a value. There's a utility value. Somebody who wants that extra bedroom, how are they going to do it in the 2 bedroom place? Is there a basement that you can add a bedroom, etc.? Well, I go back to my idea that you probably want to push that price. And there's the argument or the discussion you have with the seller, which is, hey, we don't have 3 bedrooms. We just have the 2 bedrooms. And unless you want to do an extension, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, do you want to expand on your property? Would you like to rip off the roof and add another floor? Or what do you want me to do here to add another bedroom? And once you notice how I'm joking. I play around with it so they get the idea. And once they come to the conclusion, yeah, then I think your adjustment to 500 makes a lot of sense based on what you've told me. And in fact, you might have to adjust more. I don't know what the value of that extra bed and extra bath is in that market. Is there a square footage difference? Luckily you've got that comp, and you can explain that people love new. They're going to buy the new over the used every day of the week. So you've got some strict competition. And if you've got a reasonable seller and you've got the ability, because they're not locked into a high mortgage amount or something, you can make some adjustments and make this work. And then what you do, by the way, after that is you sell against it to the buyers. You say, hey, don't spend that extra 75,000 or 100,000 over there. Just come buy this. We're already ready to go. You can move it right now today.
Yeah, nice point.
You got to give the buyer agent some ammunition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, the buyer agents, you got to give them ammunition, like in the listing present in the MLS, in the comment section, either the public or private section, where the agents could read it. You got to say stuff like, hey, there's a comp. Let's say you made a different change, but let's say there's 2 bedrooms over there in that new community, and they're selling for 550, and yours is a 2 bedroom selling for 500. You can say, hey, say in the MLS first line, save 50,000, save 50,000, and then you explain it. This property over here, 123 Elm Street, it is selling for 550, and ours is selling for 500. You could say 50 grand the day you move in. Make an offer. Come buy this property instead of that property. Let's go. Right? I've been doing that. I've been experimenting with that. I saw an agent in my area do that just recently, maybe a couple of years ago, and I've been playing with that, showing comps in your remarks, comps to your property where you can show that you have a value. It actually is a pretty good proposition. It's a good juxtaposition. You just give the address of the other property, the amount it's sold for, and you say, check out this difference, right?
So, but better to do like on private, not on public, right? You think
I've been doing it in private.
on private?
Excuse me, I've been doing it in public. I've been doing it in
Public.
public comments. Yeah. So you can decide, because see, when I do it in the public comments, not only is the agent doing, I don't have to worry about the agent getting the message to the buyer. The buyer is seeing it. The buyer, if the buyer saw the picture and they liked it, just imagine you're in the shoes of a buyer. The buyer sees the pictures. That's the first thing they look at, I'm sure. I'm convinced, other than they're in the price range. So they're going to see the picture. They're going to go double check the price. Now they're going to make sure it has the right number of bedrooms and bathrooms. They're going through a checklist in their mind. They're going down to the neighborhood. Where is this? Now they're going to look at the map. Okay. And now what, after they've done all that and they've got some interest, they're like, yeah, this kind of qualifies for me. Then I am assuming they're going to at some point start reading down through the details. Maybe they want to know the HOA amount or what, they're going to start looking at things. And eventually, if not very soon, they're going to read those comments. And they're going to read that public comment. And they're going to go, oh, this is really cool. This has blank. I didn't know about. I couldn't tell from the picture, and so that comment section is not going to grab them off the street. It's going to help sell the deal after they've already decided it's in the group. Now they want to go take a look. So as an example, if there's a big, I've been playing with this recently, if there's a big price variation, I just mentioned to you a comp. I've been selling properties that need a fix up. So I try to show them a as repaired value price, okay, compared to what we're at. And these guys that are investors, man, they're running that math. The other thing I'm doing in the retail world is if we offer a seller concession, I put it at the very first line. By the way, don't bury this stuff either. I put it at the very first line. Hey, there's a seller concession here of X, and you could use this to do Y. So I've shown how the buyer can use that to pay their closing costs. In my case, I had a big enough one I could say the buyer could use this to do a 2-1 buy down. And I didn't just stop there. I said, not only could you do a 2-1 buy down, this is what I estimate you would save each year, each month. In your first year, the monthly payment would be $400 less. I gave the number, $418, etc. And this is how much it would be in the second year. And then at the end, I say, these are just estimates. Ask your lender for the actual numbers for you. Right. But I put that up front. So that becomes a part of the dialogue. And the buyer, I'm assuming, calls up their agent and goes, what's this all about? Tell me more about this.
That's so cool. For me, it's only obstacle. It's like on our MLS, we cannot put the word seller concession. It's not allowed.
That's okay. So is there a different way to say it? I mean, there's got to be a way to put it in there. You got to just call up the MLS and say, how I want to promote this. How do I do it? My seller is willing to do concession. Here's another way to look at it and find out the answer. Do builders ever put their properties in the MLS? Builders?
Yes,
home
of course.
builders?
Yeah.
Read their listings because they're doing concessions left and right now. Go see how they're phrasing it. How are they putting it in there? They're putting it in there somehow. These sellers, these builders are doing. Go ahead.
Just in general, they say we pay buyer's agent commission. That's it. So kind of like that. I mean, if we talk about the commission,
Okay. Is there anything else that builder is putting in MLS? Go read those comments real deep and see if there's something in there they're trying to use to capture that buyer's interest. Because they're doing tons of concessions right now. The average, and this is actually a little older, I bet it's even more now. At one point, the average across the US was 57,000 in seller concessions to buyers for home builders. That was the average. They're buying down interest rates. They're basically buying down the payments, either temporarily or permanently. They're throwing in free appliances. They're doing things to make it look attractive. And that's an example of what you may end up having to do is you may have to say, seller will pay for all, in the old days, we used to say carpet and paint allowance, right? That was just another way to say it. And then the lenders didn't like that, so they rolled it all into this one term called seller concessions. But because the lenders didn't like to set up an escrow. That's the way they used to have to do it in the old days, is a seller would put the money aside into an escrow, a true escrow account that the new lender would have to hold, and then dole the money out as the project got done. Say, again, new carpet, new paint was the most common one. But you could have appliances in there or whatever else. You could say that and then say at the end, or give you a price reduction, or you use this money any other way you want, or whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. Try to figure out if there's a way to work that in. You've got to get creative. You got to follow the rules, but you got to get creative.
Okay, cool. And one more question regarding this listing, please.
You froze up on us, Yavin. We couldn't hear what you said. Go ahead. You said something about the new listing.
Yeah, I said, yeah, we have only like one showing a week so far. And it's most of the, looks like it's the kind of Chinese buyers with the agents, and they're looking for this listing kind of like investment. Is it a good idea just to kind of like share more in description, like, oh, you can, it's property is rentable? Because for me, it's kind of like it's a deal who family wants to buy, like not just kind of investors. I'm kind of not expected get some investors on this type of kind of listing. And looks like maybe I have to change the idea for description as well to be it's more attractive for investors.
So there's a couple things you can do there. One, you could change the description. So the remarks, everything else is static, right? How many bedrooms and baths doesn't change, but you can change the remarks. And so you could test rotating even week by week where you put in, I have, by the way, I have copied and pasted. I copy and paste my remarks so I can use them for future listings and change them as I go. And I mark the date of when I changed it. I do a printout of my remarks, so I keep it in my records, because this is a marketing piece for me. And you could go alternate back and forth between, hey, I'm targeting a first-time home buyer versus I'm targeting an investor. Okay, and then that investor target, that's where you could bring up, hey, this is the estimated rent. Here's the estimated ROI. Here, you could talk in those terms. And the other thing you could do, which is not as effective, but you can try, is you can combine them. So at the beginning, maybe you're talking, if you think that the majority of the potential buyers are first-time buyers, then you would talk about that at the beginning in paragraph 1, and then paragraph 2, you would say, and by the way, if you ever decide to rent this out, so you're going to keep talking to the first-time buyer. You say, if you ever decide to rent this out, here's what the numbers would look like for a rental. Now the investor would go down and read that, and that's the thing that's most important to them. So you might combine it, throw this idea of rent and return on investment, et cetera, in there. It's an idea.
Cool. Yeah.
If you
thanks.
think that the primary buyer is an investor, though, throw that out there right at the top. Great investment rental property, get blankety blank cash on cash back. You can just go into whatever you think the returns an investor is going to want to see. Does it cash flow? Would it cash flow?
No, it wouldn't. My opinion. I don't know why they do that. I mean,
talk about that then. Just talk about that.
I mean, like, yeah, they have to pay extra for this property. Yeah.
Remember my philosophy. Well, I'll just tell you again my philosophy on all this stuff. Lean into all the problems. Lean into all the problems. Okay, be honest about what the issue is in the property. So if you're going to do the investor one and say it's going to lose $500 a month in cash flow, you say that right at the top. Say, hey, this is a potential investment, but it's going to lose $500 a month in negative cash flow. And your seller's going to be like, why the hell are you saying that? Because I want investors to know that's what they're getting into before they get into it. They're going to find out anyway. It's not like we can hide this. So you just say, look, you're going to lose $500 a month in cash flow. And then you're going to do the however, we think that the upside potential of the growth in this area is really strong, and you'll make it up on equity growth, equity right, on appreciation.
That's why they would probably, yeah.
Now, your only problem there is just be very careful. Do not guarantee equity growth, right? Don't guarantee any of these numbers. Yeah. Always have a disclaimer that says none of these numbers are guaranteed. Anything can happen in any situation, however you want to do your disclosure.
Yeah, we cannot guarantee appreciation. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you
Market
cannot,
can change
absolutely.
anytime. Yeah.
Well, believe me, buyers will sue you for just about anything if we haven't learned anything by now. So buyers can sue for crazy, crazy things. What was that, Kim? You were telling me something crazy thing about a buyer suing somebody. Anyway, uh,
It was regarding the feedback.
yes. Oh,
It was regarding the showing feedback. I'm trying to remember all of the particulars, but basically the buyers, you're going to have to help me remember this, Mike. So the buyers provided feedback on a listing to the sellers, but then they ended up coming back and purchasing the same listing. And apparently the sellers were real SOBs. They were very, very difficult. During the whole process to the buyers. And apparently, the whole transaction just got very heated and very ugly. And at some point, the agent ended up getting sued
buyer
because
agent.
the buyer's agent ended up getting sued. And I don't remember who brought, I think it was the
The
buyers that,
buyer, the buyer sued
yeah,
the buyer agent because the seller told the buyer that we're being difficult to you. They've
yes,
learned that they were being difficult
there
because
you go.
the buyer's agent had given honest feedback that the buyers were not interested in the property because of XYZ, had all these flaws. And that had pissed off the sellers. And so that when they did come back, the sellers were being really hard on the numbers and negotiate and whatever. And somehow this buyer won. Somehow the buyer won the court case. And the whole point
Yeah.
is buyers can sue you for anything. I'll just go
Yeah.
right back.
That was it. It was the buyers sued the buyer agent because the sellers told them that the reason they were so difficult was because of that.
Thank you,
Yep.
Kim. Thanks for helping me remember the story. I'll just go back to something you have to keep in mind. Who's the number one person that will sue you in real estate?
Buyers probably.
Your client.
Your client for
Client.
sure.
Yeah, your client. My dad told me that when I first started the business. He said the number one person that'll sue you in any deal. He asked me the same question, and I did worse than you guys. I'm like, well, it's going to be the builder. It's going to be my, I'm going all over the place on who's going to sue me. He's like, no, it's going to be your client. Yeah. So, and he's right. That's what I've noticed over the years. When people get sued, they typically get sued by their client because we have that fiduciary duty and agreement. So my point is just make sure you do a lot of disclosures. You're not guaranteeing anything. Okay. All right, good. Hopefully that's helped a little bit. We've gobbled up a ton of time. I hope this has been beneficial in one way or another. Let's do this. We're going to wrap up the production call and we're going to go into the huddle. Number one thing you did yesterday to move your business forward. Number one thing you're going to do today. Who would like to start?
I can start. Number one thing yesterday, I shot a video for my listing for social media. And I had one showing with a client for a lease. And today I'll be putting in an offer for that client. And I'll be putting 2 properties on the market for lease for an investor client. And hopefully some door knocking today also.
That's fantastic. Congratulations, Tristan. I heard 3 clients, and I heard a buyer, a tenant, and then I heard a landlord, 2 landlord listings. Where did that come from?
My
PCSOY
sphere,
or somewhere
yeah,
else?
sphere of influence.
Fantastic. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Good job. All right, who's next?
I will go. So yesterday I walked through those 2 properties. I also got a realty.com lead. Didn't reach them, but left a voicemail. Today we have inspections at our property that we have under contract, and I'll be on the road driving a lot. But that's my today. And Yevon, I wanted to go back and just give a couple thoughts that I had about your property. So when you're competing with new construction, I don't know the location where it is to this new phase that they're building or where they're at, But yeah, whatever that buyer can get into the property, if they can get into the property at, because that new construction, a lot of times they'll talk about payment and how to get in and um, how they can pay their closing costs. So those incentives really are important when you're competing with new construction. And I would just put signs in the yard, anything that you can do. And then if there's a way, if you're allowed to direct traffic from the new construction traffic to your listing with signs and directionals, I don't know if they let you do that. I would do that.
Yeah, if it's gonna be the house, it will be perfect idea. But it's townhome, they're not allowed to put any yard signs. Yeah, this is the
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Can you put signs in the windows? Or then maybe do the micro adjustment, the incentives, and lower the price a little bit. There's so many different things. And then if you can get people inside the townhome, then just make sure that they understand like that they can get in and that you're competing with that other phase. Uh, because it comes down to what can they get in for compared to what the builder's getting in, allowing them to get in for.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I will try to play with all things which we discussed today. Yeah.
Hey,
You can go.
Yevon, I really have a hard time making this call. I've been dreading calling you all week, but I need to let you know the market has not been friendly to us. I'm really sad to have to give you these statistics, but we've only had one showing this last week. The market is basically telling us that we're overpriced. I feel so frustrated about this. But I think if you want, and we need to get this property sold because I know you want to move to XYZ, we need to adjust this property price down to either 500 or 475. Which would you prefer to do so we can adjust to the market?
Yeah, nice speech. And just stay quiet, right? Okay.
You have to let
Anyway,
that sink there. You have to let that sink. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but we'll try that. But you blame the market because it's the truth. The market's talking and we have to listen. Yeah.
Yep.
And you got to make those adjustments. And Angela gave you some great ideas to reposition and also window signs. Maybe it'll catch somebody's eye as they're driving in and out of the complex to try to find
Yeah,
out.
maybe Windows Science, start at least.
They can do or can't do window.
I can do. Yeah, the Windows I can do.
Uh, It's something to consider if they're looking at prices at the new construction site. You might not just put a sign in the window, you might actually put the price in the window. Big giant numbers of what the price is, if it's very competitive compared to the new construction.
Yeah, I just want to ask to the HA if it's allowed to put something on balcony. Maybe we can use the balcony like advertising,
Yeah,
The
something they can see from the street as they're driving by, try to catch their eye. All right, good
Mhm.
job. Good job, Angela. Good job, Yevon. Who's next?
I can go next, yeah, since you hear me. So yesterday I started work with new buyer. She's the investor. She just sold her primary residence and she wants to kind of buy something for cash, like one property. I said like, don't do that. Don't spend the cash. Give me like chance to kind of like get you like more properties. And we just talk with the lender. So she got like 200,000. I said better to split for 50K and just put, like maybe buy four properties or at least like three properties because she qualified for DSR loan. So at this point I said like I'm gonna be, it's win-win because I can sell you more. You can get more, like for future, like for at least for appreciation, because like yeah, for one cash it's kind of like you put all eggs in one basket. So and she kind of like think about it for a week and she said, okay, I'm ready to go, buy something like yeah, like you said, like three properties instead of one. And so I'm ready to go. I show like yesterday four properties. We want to submit like two offers today, and I have another like buyer I work into, just first home buyer, like for primary home, close to like 450, $400,000 to $500,000. So it's my price range for now, which I want to stay close. Not like you remember I told you last year I stay close to like small deals. Now I push myself to get higher price number for buyers, and yeah, we'll see. So far I like it how it goes.
That's fantastic, Evan. Congratulations. Way to turn your seller into a buyer and the buyer into not one but multiple properties. That was pretty cool. So I assume your pitch for why to do that was the appreciation, the multiplied leveraged appreciation. And that's good. That's great. Just keep in mind, you share both sides of the coin. You say, hey, you can get all this upside appreciation and you can double your rewards if you buy two instead of one. Just then on the flip side, just keep in mind your cash flows are going to be tighter. So make sure that you're cash flowing, and you may have to cover some a negative cash flow a month or two. And Miss Buyer, which sounds better to you? Are you okay? What do you want to do there? And get their buy-in. And it sounds like you did. You let her think about it for a week, and then boom, once she does, now you're ready to rock and roll. Good job. All right. And by the way, where'd that seller buyer come from?
It's a referral from another client. I also like work with her friend. She wants to buy like a short-term rental Airbnb home, but she's not qualified yet. So she's in the process. But she said, "Oh, I give you my friend. She wants to buy a long-term rental." And I start talking to her friend, and accidentally, like her friend like more qualified, ready to buy. And looks like, yeah, we will make the deal faster with her friend than with the, like lady who wants to buy Airbnb. So
That is
it's
fantastic.
referral, yeah.
Congratulations, Yevon. Thank you for sharing. Who's next?
Yeah, thank you.
I guess that would be me. Yesterday, I spent several hours just doing administrative stuff for the business, trying to move it forward that way. Today, I'm going to send out some marketing letters and clean up our marketing lists.
Good job, Kim. Good job. Yesterday, I did the same thing. Ended up in the project of preparing my list for today for some phone dials, and I'll be doing that this afternoon. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a fantastic and productive day. Take care.
Great job, everyone.